Great to be with everyone. Such a joy to share. I've been talking to Steve a lot about you up there in Napa, and it's interesting because I was there years ago when Sonia Milton was the minister, and I know Juanita from many, many years of taking licensed teacher training. Anyway, it's such a joy to be with all of you today and to share really what is most dear to my heart, and that is the metaphysics of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. I have to say, as Steve said, I've been involved in Unity for over 30 years. And once I got the bug, there was nothing that could stop me from moving into ultimately being a licensed Unity teacher, taking every class I could at Unity and Marin. And then having a little birdie put something in my ear that someday I should be a minister, which was the farthest thing from my mind when I was a real estate broker in Marin County. At any rate, Unity continues to bless me, even after leaving the ministry at Unity of Berkeley in 2013. As Steve mentioned, I've been doing a lot of work in India. I've been going there since 2006. And I usually go 2 or 3 times a year, but haven't been back there since December of 2019 because of COVID. At any rate, what's been really fascinating for me is how the basic teachings and understandings that I have received through the work of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore really is so in alignment with all that I'm being gifted with in my studies of the ancient wisdom teachings in India. And so it's been such a great blessing now to be connecting in with a number of Unity churches on Sunday morning and really reconnecting in with the power that Charles and Myrtle gave us in their most extraordinary lives and most extraordinary teachings. And what I really feel so blessed about with Unity teachings is that it's ever new. We can read a story in the Bible, and for me, I have certain favorites, which I'm sure maybe some of you who've been in Unity for a long time do as well. But it's as if every single time I read these stories, I'm in a different river in my life. I understand things a little bit differently. And even if I go back to Charles and Myrtle, and especially to Charles, which is what we're going to do a little bit today, back to Revealing Word, which is a favorite of mine, where he really identifies his understanding of the metaphysical meaning of specific words, and also the metaphysical dictionary, which is an extraordinary work of spirit. We're told by Charles' granddaughter, Rosemary Fillmore Ray, that when she was a little girl, she would bring her friends home, and her grandfather would be sitting in the living room in his chair with his eyes closed for hours and hours, and her friends just thought, this is so weird. But what we know is, and Rosemary would tell them, he's going to headquarters. This is what Charles did. He tuned in to higher consciousness, and out of that attunement, he was able to anchor in some deep understandings about how basically everything that we read in the Bible has a counterpart in our own life experience in some way. And so today what we're going to do, we're going to explore 2, which I have to say are kind of favorite Bible stories of mine relative to healing. And I would have been probably smart to just pick one, but I didn't. And so here we go, because I think there's some parallels in the story, but also there's some really interesting aspects of the story that I think point us to particular places in our lives right now in a different way. So be with me on this journey, and for those who are able to stay afterwards as we have a discussion, I hope that you will find some really powerful insights for your own life right now. And as I said in the write-up that I sent to Steve earlier, when we're talking about healing, we can often anchor it into physical healing in the body. And of course, Unity was birthed out of Myrtle Fillmore's physical healing. She had tuberculosis, and as a young woman, I think she was maybe 35, during that time, that was a death sentence. but she had young children, and she went to this lecture where she heard E.B. Weeks, who was a New Thought teacher. And what she got from the lecture was, you are a child of God, therefore you do not inherit sickness. And she went home and she prayed to the health and vitality of all of her organs in her body every single day, hour upon hour. And Myrtle passed away in the age of, I think she was 84, after closing down all the books in her office and telling everyone, I think I can do my work better from the other side. She went home, and 2 weeks later, she had passed away. She wasn't sick. She did not die because there was illness in the body. She knew her work was done. And for me, and I think for many other people, we understand what Myrtle meant in terms of the work that she continues to share with us over the years, even though she's left the physical body. So the healing in the physical body was part of what happened for Myrtle and what started the unity movement. But I think for all of us, we have to frame our understanding of what is healing in a very different way, in a broader sense, to understand that it also means healing in relationships. It can mean healing from fear that we have in our mindset. It can be healing in a job that we're doing that we're not feeling is our right place. It can be healing the busyness of the mind and bringing us into a place of calm centering. There's so many things that healing can mean. It's about bringing wholeness to the truth of who we are, spirit, soul, and body. So I'm going to share these two stories, and we're going to dive in and do a little metaphysicalizing with them. And I'm not going to be talking about any illness you have in your body. You can make your own parallels in any way you choose to do that. So the first story I'd like to share is the story in Mark. And this is a story that maybe some of us have heard and kind of went, oh, I don't really get this. Anyway, I thought originally I'd read the Bible, but I think I'm just going to tell you the story because it's got a lot of heretofores and he spake and words that are odd words. So basically the story goes like this. Jesus was in Capurnum. P.S. Capurnum, metaphysically, is a place of compassion, a place. I think somebody's not muted here. I'm hearing a little bit of something. So whoever's hosting, if you want to mute everybody, that would be awesome. Great. I do a lot of Zoom calls, so I'm super host sensitive. It's Herta, and I think she's in a car. So Suzanne, I think if you just mute everyone and then unmute me, we'll be good. We'll be good to go. Just hit the mute. There we go. Okay. Love you, Herta.
Now you're on mute.
I'm okay. Back to Capurnum. We're all good. We love Zoom. And we're human. P.S. Okay, so Capurnum is a place of compassion and wholeness. So Jesus is in Capurnum, and he's in a house in Capurnum. And the people around him have gotten word that Jesus is in the house. The man is in the house, and there's a crowd all around. There's a crowd in the house. There's a crowd all around the house. So anybody who's trying to get in to see Jesus can't get in. The door is blocked. So there is this man, and we're told that this man is on his bed and that he has a palsy. Now, Charles Fillmore talks about palsy as it's a condition of the nerves. We're going to come back to that in a minute because this is a really key important thing for us to be aware of. So there's this man who wants to get in to see Jesus because he's heard that Jesus is a healer, but he can't get through the door. And he's got 4 friends. His 4 friends are very much committed to his healing. And what do? They actually get onto the roof of the house where Jesus is. And in those days, it was kind of a mud roof. And they pull apart all that's on top of the roof, and they lower down the bed of this man who has the palsy into the middle of the house where Jesus is. And Jesus again asks him, does he want to be healed? And the man wants to be healed. And he tells him ultimately, get up, your sins are forgiven. get up, take your bed, and get out of here. Basically, that's the story. Okay? It's kind of a strange story. Like, if anybody was fundamental and they're like, this is a true story, you'd have to kind of wonder about them, really. But we're talking metaphysics here. So we're looking at a very different picture. We're looking at the whole story being about you and me. We're looking at this. This is about our consciousness. The whole story is about our consciousness. So the house it's our being, it's our body, it's the wholeness of who we are. Jesus is always representing our higher consciousness, that place where we, spirit, soul, and body, where we connect, where the soul of who we are, which resides in this vessel, in this house, in this body, is able to connect to higher consciousness, connecting to the divine presence. So Jesus is in the house. There's an awareness of higher consciousness in us. At the same time, the house is crowded. The doors are blocked. There's like lots going on. That is a representation for many of us that we have this kind of crowd of outer thoughts pressing in on us. We have this awareness. There is within us higher consciousness and the Christ consciousness. But so often we have this awareness of what are other people saying? What's outer consciousness? What's collective consciousness pressing in on us? For some people, it's so intense that they would never activate these four powers, these four friends that want to get the healing. They just leave, they give up. Notice if you've given up in your life because you've been listening to the, mind chatter inside you that's coming from outside that doesn't allow you to connect with the Christ consciousness. But in this particular story, which is such a blessing of a story for us, we literally are activating four qualities of being. Those four people are four qualities of who we are that are going to take us through the roof being that level of higher consciousness, and anchor us into the place where we can fully connect with Jesus and the Christ consciousness, which, P.S., is very interesting. Charles Fillmore identifies that location is down in the solar plexus. So we're coming through the roof, we're coming through this place of higher consciousness and anchoring into Christ, the Christ consciousness in the solar plexus. So what Fillmore says, which I thought was really interesting, I did some really fun research and looked back at some of Fillmore's talks from like 1906, 1928, where he does interpretations of some of these Bible stories. And what he says are these four friends, these four aspects within us are the quality of life, the quality of substance, pretty interesting, the quality of power, and the quality of strength. Life, substance, power, and strength. And what he says is these are the qualities that have the capacity to take us, lift us out of the busyness of these, pressing thoughts of monkey mind, collective consciousness, and really anchor in that higher consciousness and bring us into a place of Christ consciousness. And it's in that place that the healing happens. So we could have a whole talk on these four qualities, which might be a fun thing to do sometime. You can look it up. You could look up, some of these are part of the 12 powers, expressed in a little bit different way, but literally anchored into the physical body through the way Charles describes the 12 powers. But if we think about this, Fillmore talks to us and shares with us about the quality of our connection to mind action. And it's one of the, it's one of the 5 unity principles. Thoughts and mind produce after their kind. Well, if we're in that place of having all this busyness of these busy thoughts, they're going to produce that we're not going to get the healing. We're going to be caught up in the outer and not get the healing. But if we activate the power of our inner life force, the activity of life within us, which takes action upon spiritual substance. Now, spiritual substance this is like something that we can't touch, we can't hold, but it's everywhere. Fillmore sometimes talks about it as the ethers. It's the idea that we create out of the thoughts that are in our consciousness. And Fillmore actually has a statement, which is literally one of my favorite things. He says, faith is the perceiving power of the mind linked with the power to shape substance. So basically what he's saying is when we activate this power to shape substance through the activity of life with that inner knowing, that faith that says, yes, I have a higher consciousness. I know there's something other than what's outside me, and I know how to get there. And I have the strength, which is like, strength is that power of keep on keeping on, steadfastness. You want one of those guys on your corners to be able to move the power of spirit into the healing that we need, whether it's in the physical body or whether it's in a relationship, or whether it's just simply having us be willing to move out of that place of palsy. Palsy. Okay, so this is where things get a little bit kind of fun to play with, because Fillmore is talking about the Christ consciousness being down in the solar plexus. And I was just, this really surprised me, because I always thought, well, Christ consciousness ought to be like up here, you know, because we're always going up for higher consciousness. But what's interesting about this, and this is where my Indian teachings have really kind of expanded my understanding of what Charles and Myrtle Fillmore had access to as mystics, because they were mystics. You know, this was not something that was available to most people at that time. They were able to feel and see at much different realms of consciousness. And of course, the culture in India has been doing these spiritual studies and spiritual awareness for thousands and thousands of years. So they're aware of what is going on inside the physicality of our bodies, which are made out of spirit, made out of spiritual substance. We're spirit, soul, and body. So the interesting piece about this palsy piece, when I started looking at it, and Fillmore says it's a nerve, it's like it's a nervous condition. This man on his bed had a nervous condition. Fillmore attaches this to the subconscious and to fear that comes up. You know, we talk about love or fear. Are you in faith or fear? Are you like Gerald Jampolsky, you know, is your life being run by fear? Is your life being run by love? Love is my decision. So what's an interesting piece about this is what the story is telling me is that when I am in fear, when I am in that place of fear, and what the thing about this nervous system is that we have something in our body that, quite frankly, I really was not aware of this until a few years ago when studying in India. And they were talking about the vagus nerve. Vagus, like a vagrant, it's a wandering nerve. It's a nerve that moves up through the abdomen area. And even you can think of it even connecting into the power of strength, which Fillmore has identified down in the lower abdomen. So it moves through all of the organs of the body and connects up to the brainstem. And it connects to all the inner organs of the body. So it's connecting us to the digestive system, it's connecting us to the heart and the lungs, and then moving up to the brain. And those who've done studies have discovered that literally the activity of this vagus nerve is an ascending activity. It starts in these lower regions and moves up to the brain. So if you think about the palsy of fear that causes us to be in a state of fight or flight, which is the activity of the sympathetic nervous system. We're ready to move at a heartbeat. What happens is the digestive system slows, it basically stops. You know, your heart rate gets amplified, your blood vessels constrict, you're like ready to go. Adrenaline happens. When we're in that place of fear, that's what happens. We constrict, everything closes down. But what can happen is when we have awareness of this and the vagus nerve gets activated, the opposite thing happens. The vagus nerve is responsible for the parasympathetic nervous system, which slows down our heart rate. It actually decreases inflammation in the body. It can reduce we're not connected into the limbic system, amygdala, fight or flight anymore. We've moved into a deep place of calm peace. And this is what Charles is asking us to do when we're in that place of we've got our inner palsy and fear is up for us, and all the voices are telling us we can't do it, we shouldn't do it, we shouldn't try. We're being asked to pull out the quality of faith and substance, the quality of power, the power that we have, and using the power of the word even to create an affirmation for the truth of who we know we are, and to activate this spiritual power of strength to connect us with the higher consciousness and to bring about that healing, so that we can do what Jesus said to this man, which is, your sins are forgiven, get up and walk. And basically the sin that we have is just misunderstanding who we are, forgetting that we have this higher qualities within us as spirit, soul, and body. So this is such a cool story, I think. Do you guys like this story? I hope so. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit more time because I want to tell you the other story. And hope are you going to be okay to do this with me? Because I think the other story is a little different, but it's kind of where a lot of people are. So the other story is a story in John 5. And this is the story of the man who was lying beside the pool of Bethesda for 38 years. And you want to ask yourself, what the heck was he doing? 38 years, he's lying there. He's paralyzed and he's lying on his mat, which is kind of like the bed, for 38 years. Well, first of all, the place he is, Bethesda is a pool of water in Jerusalem. Fillmore tells us Jerusalem is a place of peace. So here he is, along with, who knows, millions, thousands of people. They're lying around this pool of water in Jerusalem. And a pool, metaphysically, means it's about a flow, a life flow, a flow of energy. There are 5 porticos, or sort of 5 pillars surrounding this pool, which represents the 5 senses. So the story goes that every once in a while, the angels will come, and as they flap their wings over the pool, the waters ripple. And if you're quick you're quick as a bunny, and you can get yourself into the pool while the waters are rippled, you will be healed. That's the story, okay? Well, this guy, Jesus comes up to him and he's like, do you want to be healed? And the guy is like, he's on his pity pot. It's like, oh, I do, but every time the water ripples and I start going, the people just walk over me and I never get there. 38 years. He's been stuck there 38 years. And I think, poor guy, this is really sad. But still, there's still this story he keeps telling himself. So Jesus looks at him and he's like, do you want to be healed? And the guy's, yes. Pick up your mat and walk. The interesting thing about the story is Jesus doesn't say, pick up your mat and get in the pool, does he? He doesn't tell him to do that. He doesn't need all that hocus pocus, abracadabra, what everyone else believes is going to be the healing for him. He doesn't have to go to Mexico. He doesn't have to take certain herbs. I'm just making all this up, but whatever it is, that you think you can't do, but somebody else can do. He just says, pick up your mat and walk, which is about the activity of spirit within us. And I love this story because I just can see in my own life, just times in my life when I've been on my mat and I've been really stuck, not in the physical, in the sense of needing a physical healing, but where I've really wanted to do something. And I thought, okay, that's how to do it. and every once in a while, somebody will come and the waters will get ruffled and I'll get really inspired and I'll start heading out, but then I'll compare myself to somebody else who's doing it faster, better than I am. And I'll just kind of lose my steam and I never get there. I just stuck. I'm just in that stuck place. And what I realized is I was thinking about it this morning. It's not about the pool. It's not about how somebody tells me I need to get a healing in my relationship or how I had to fix my business. It's not about that at all. It's about my willingness to be fully engaged with all that I know and all the gifts that Spirit has given me, and really go to that place of calm peace. Do the things that Charles and Myrtle told us, connect in the stillness and the silence. Listen and meditate. Open. We can pray and we can ask, and we can be very clear with the divine, with God, about what it is we think we want, this or something better. But then we have to be so still and be willingness to be in that place of openness to receive. And just like we was shared this morning, sometimes wait is the message we get. Sometimes we're supposed to, but hopefully not 38 years. Hopefully we can get whatever we need from the divine. And maybe the divine tells us, it's time for you to get in the pool now. And that's where the healing is. Or maybe there's some other message we get where it's time for us to pick up our mat and go in this direction. But I just love both of these stories because I feel like there are different ways that we get caught up in our lives, where we feel that whatever is going on is just not who we are. This isn't it. There's something in my life that isn't working. Maybe it's a relationship that's not working, and we want to make it about the outer. We want to make it about the other people. We want it, and we can talk to our friends and they'll tell us, oh yeah, it's about him. It's not about you. He's doing this. But when we realize that it's not, that outer conversation is not where is going to get us to that place of healing within ourselves. And it's only when we get to that place, just like we come through the roof with life and that capacity to connect with spiritual substance, to create through the power of our thoughts and our words, and then take action through the power that we have, that living spirit of truth. And that actually takes strength. It takes persistence. It takes perseverance. So I just love these stories, and I hope that they inspired you in some way. If you've been on your mat, maybe not even 38 years, but even a week. So for some of us, a week is way too long. And also because sometimes when we're on the mat, when we're like by the pool and we think we know the answer, we can actually get catapulted to the other side of Capurnum, where we feel like we can't ever get in. And so, I just think there's so much that Charles Fillmore has given us in grace, and also connecting in to the physicality of our bodies and how we really can activate the vagus nerve to bring down the activity of fight or flight, to bring down fear, to bring down inflammation in the physical body, and to bring us into a deep place of peace and connection from the heart. So I think I'd love to have us do a meditation if everybody's up for that. That'd be great. Okay, I invite you to close your eyes. Take a sip of coffee. You might need that before we meditate. I do coffee meditation every morning. It's my very first thing. And then I lead a group for an hour of meditation. And some people are drinking during the meditation, but I like to get my caffeine over early. So anyway, I'm watching you. I'm just kidding. It's so great to be with you guys. Anyway, I invite you to close your eyes. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a conscious breath. And a conscious breath is where you're inhaling through the nose, if you can, and you're bringing that breath all the way down to your belly. You feel you can sense that your abdomen's expanding. And then you slowly, slowly exhale. You might even place your hands down there in your belly so you know that the breath is going down very deeply. Inhaling and slowly, slowly, slowly exhaling. As you do this, you're literally activating that vagus nerve. So let's take another nice conscious breath. Inhaling deeply. And slowly, slowly exhaling. And relax your hands. Now take a moment to bring any awareness, this moment, to a situation, something happening in your life where you might be on your bed or on your mat. A place where you have a desire for more wholeness in a particular area of your life. It could be your physical body. It could be something in your relationships with family and friends. It could be in the work that you do, or something that brings you joy that's a little off right now. You'd like to bring wholeness to. So just see yourself sitting there. And as you see this situation or experience, visualize yourself fully healed in this moment. See it, feel it, touch it. See if there are others around you. See if there's an activity you're doing in the physical body. You're off your mat and in the world. And anchor in this experience by taking a moment to just touch your heart with your hand, your right hand, just gently. Feeling the wholeness and the connection of who you are. And now we bring our attention to the crown of our heads. And relax your hand. And call upon that higher consciousness, however you know it, Christ consciousness, the living spirit of truth, the I am presence, the divine Holy Spirit, higher power. Just call upon that presence and feel it flowing from the crown of your head, down through the body, to the back of the throat, into your lungs and heart, down into your stomach and area around your navel, just behind your navel. Allow the energy to sit right there for a moment. And call upon this presence, this higher consciousness, to dispel any energy that is pushing you away from your higher expression of who you are. Any fear, any disconnection, any dissatisfaction, regret, any grief. Just ask your higher consciousness to dispel these beings who have been pushing at your door. And to call upon the power of strength, the power of life, a power of spiritual substance as you bring your attention now to your throat. Charles Fillmore called this place in the throat and the back of the throat a place of zeal and power, where we energize through the power of the word that which we're co-creating with Spirit. So I invite you, either aloud or inwardly, to claim the truth of who you are with an I am statement. Perhaps it's I am healthy and vibrantly alive. I am connected and loving in my relationships. I am giving and receiving the gifts that I've been gifted in the world freely and abundantly. Take a moment and just feel into that powerful statement of truth, your I am right now. And now bringing your attention to the place between your eyebrows. Seeing and knowing beyond the physical, at the realm of spirit, that all things are possible as you connect with the divine within and without. Offer up your gratitude, taking in a nice deep breath, bringing attention back to the full body, from the crown of the head to the heart, to the very seat you are seated on, and down to your feet. Offering up gratitude for the body you've been given this go round, and knowing that you are a beautiful spiritual being, gifted with the grace and power of a living spirit of truth in this body, in this moment. And as you're ready, gently, please open your eyes.